I think that we also sometimes put our life on hold waiting for the perfect.
Stop the video now.
Right. Whether it's the perfect partner.
Yeah.
Or it's a perfect job.
Yeah.
Or somehow it's this idealized version of the way life is supposed to be.
Yes.
And then so we're left feeling either dissatisfied or, like I said, we put our life on hold because we're waiting for that thing to happen.
Hello, Miss Mary.
Hello, Gillian.
You're a little giggly.
I am not.
Yes, you are.
Okay, I was a little I'm a little bit silly because I didn't get as much sleep as I normally would.
Right.
It's been a busy weekend, and I get a little giddy when that happens.
And the other thing is, like, I'd rather have this
right
than grumpy.
Well, you'll never get grumpy from me.
You should just be tired all the time.
Okay. Well, it may not totally make sense what comes out of my mouth. So you can interpret for me.
I'll try.
All right.
So we're talking about Dr. Henry Cloud's book, Never Go Back.
Yes.
And where he's talking about going back to old patterns, habits that do not serve us.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So in this particular chapter, he's talking about never go back to trusting someone or something flawless. And I got to tell you, I had a little struggle with this one initially.
Why is that?
I'm like,
isn't it so obvious?
it's not resonating with me.
No, okay.
Yeah, it should be obvious.
Right.
But then I was thinking about, so Bruce, he loves to watch these like TikTok videos, recipe videos, Instagram videos on cooking.
Yeah.
And he'll say, oh, I got to try this one.
Has he ever?
Yes, he has.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay, he has.
All right.
But he sends them to me, and I look at them, and in 2 minutes, my gut tells me, well, this ain't going to work. But in 2 minutes,
Right.
he's prepared
Right.
in his mind the most beautiful cauliflower there can be. And I'm thinking, I just don't. I look at the ingredient list and I think something's a little off there.
Yeah.
But I don't want to burst his bubble because
Right.
he's making something.
Right.
So he's tried a few times and there's been a couple of things that have failed. But you know what? I think sometimes when you have a bit of knowledge about something, you just trust your gut and you go, no, that's not going to work out. Nah.
But on the video, it makes it look so easy. And then, of course,
It looks beautiful.
It's called curated.
I know.
It's made to look that way.
I know.
Yeah.
So anyway, what we've learned to do now is if he sees a video and he really likes it, I'll Google it in a couple of reputable cooking video like sites
To see
like
whether it's
Bon
even
Appetit or
possible.
something like that.
Yeah.
And they'll go, oh, that's the reason it looks odd to me because they've doubled the liquid or they've halved the liquid or something or the cooking time's off, right? It's usually the cooking time. So you can almost immediately spot what's wrong with it. But on the outside of these videos, they look so fantastic.
I know. Well, because some of it's not even edible.
Well, true.
It's just good for the camera.
I know.
So this thing about flawless or perfect, I mean, I think that that's what social media tries to portray.
I agree.
And so with the cooking videos is part of it.
Yeah.
But I frankly, you know what? I don't trust anything that's perfect. I've been like doing life long enough to know that there is nothing perfect.
True.
There's got to be something wrong with it.
But, you know, unfortunately, I think a lot of people fall into the trap of going, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe, like, it is that, like, not that too good to be true, but maybe it is that good, right? Because I can think of a time in my life. Now, I have a really strong gut instinct, which drives me kind of the opposite way.
Like not trusting.
Right.
Right.
Whereas my husband is my husband. I like saying it like that. My husband. My husband's more trusting of people and more generous.
Naive almost. Yeah.
Right? Like he said, he could never be a policeman because he just believe everybody's story.
Right.
So for me, it's like suspect. For him, it's like, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But I remember one time I was on a hiring panel and we had this candidate come in and he presented so well. I mean, well-groomed, charismatic.
Well-spoken, I'm
well-spoken.
Sure. Yeah.
And, you know, he was very confident. And after he left, everybody was really hot about him. Like, they thought he was just the bee's knees. And I was like,
it's a little too perfect.
I'm a little on the fence about this guy.
Yeah.
It just, something doesn't feel right. But it was a voting process, and I was, outvoted, and he was hired. And his arrogance and his confidence and a massive, error in judgment led to his demise. And I'm like, I wanted to say I told you so, but
Right.
But it was too good to be true.
Right. Exactly. I mean, the thing is, there is nothing perfect.
No.
Even products. Why are they always coming up with some new version of the thing? Why are there always constant updates on all our devices?
Right.
Because there's always something that needs improving. Right?
And there should be.
And there should be. I like that. I like that you're still continuing to work on improving, and there's new technologies, et cetera, et cetera. But like with people as well, if they present as if they have no weaknesses, well, they're either lying, or if they actually believe that, they're incredibly arrogant and narcissistic.
Yes.
I used to do assessments for different police services. And I always ask a basic interview question: tell me about your top 3 weaknesses. Oh my gosh, they say things like, I work too hard, or I'm too nice. And I'd be basically going, no, those aren't weaknesses. What are real weaknesses? And I would call them, and I would not leave it, because in fact, if they couldn't come up with anything other than those lame so-called weaknesses, they're not passing, because there's little self-awareness, or they're trying to present a certain facade that's not true.
Right.
Because all of us, we're not perfect. So that's the thing. If somebody is trying to sell you something that seems flawless, don't trust it. But if you are putting a lot of effort into trying to present yourself as flawless, then you're putting your efforts in a direction that's not helpful. It's not.
And who are you fooling, really?
Right.
Really, it's going to come to light at some point.
Yeah. So that's the problem, as I don't trust people who present themselves that way. But the other thing is, because we know as humans we are imperfect, I think the imperfections leaves room for growth and improvement. So just like the devices we have can have upgrades or different, whatever they need to be better, so we can ourselves. But yet, if we aren't aware of our own weaknesses, then we're automatically we've arrived.
Yeah, and it goes back to our previous season when we were talking about Tasha Urich's book, Insight.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't have self-awareness and insight into the stuff that you're really good at and the stuff that you need to work on, and kind of the stuff that you're not good at and you don't need to work on, like, that shows you're spinning your wheels.
Right.
Because you're going to be putting your energy into the wrong things anyway. So I agree with you. If somebody is using a strength as a weakness, it's not really a weakness.
Yeah.
Like, I remember going back to that interview when the guy was asked, like, what his weaknesses were. He came up with something that was actually false humility.
Right.
I'm like, oh, please.
Right. I know. You could see it a mile away.
Yes. But, I think sometimes sometimes we just want to believe the best, and we just want to believe that the thing is true. And so how do we work past our own, not naivety, but maybe hope that things will be different, or with this particular product, or whatever it might be?
Right. I think that we also sometimes put our life on hold waiting for the perfect.
Stop the video now.
Right. I think we do. So whether it's the perfect partner, or it's the perfect job, or somehow it's this idealized version of the way life is supposed to be.
Yes.
And then so we're left feeling either dissatisfied, or, like I said, we put our life on hold because we're waiting for that thing to happen, almost magically, like it's going to happen. So when we have this perception that, or trust in flawlessness, this is already setting us up for disappointment, or not pursuing the things that are legitimate, not putting our energies towards things that really matter. So, like, for example, you will never find a perfect partner. They don't exist. Right?
Nope.
After years.
I mean, I'm a total goofball.
Yeah.
You're a total goofball.
Thank you. I take that as a compliment.
And our husbands are total goofballs.
Yes.
And there's still stuff that we just have to go, roll our eyes.
Yes. So, if you're waiting for that perfect partner, or the perfect job, then you never get started. And I often will say, I was just talking to a client the other day, and she is looking at job opportunities, and she was stressing about it because she had all these different options in front of her. And I just said, just do the next job. Just consider it as your next step. It is not the job.
That's right.
But it is a job that's going to take you one step closer to your long-term goals. You get to pay some bills. Minimally, you're learning about yourself, what you like and don't like. It's like if you kind of have that curious stance of exploration and learning and growing, that growth mindset, then I don't have so much writing in my next decision being the perfect decision. I mean, people get paralyzed.
They do.
Because they have to overanalyzing it, trying to make the perfect decision, which I translate perfect decision as in no negative results or consequences of it. And that's not realistic of life. Every pathway you take will have the good and the bad, because that's just life. And as long as you have that sense of agency, that whatever happens, I'm going to grow from it. I'm going to learn from it. And I'm going to learn more about myself for the next step or the next thing. You just sometimes just got to get moving. And so don't wait for the perfect.
Well, and I think too that we always return to this topic because it's so basic to our growth.
Right.
Is when you're talking to that woman who's got all these options in front of her, what are her values?
Exactly.
Right? Because the perfect job doesn't exist, but her values do. And if she can put herself in a situation that aligns with her values and grow from that, huge.
I know. Well, you were in our call because that's exactly what I said. And I could hear your voice saying the same thing.
I know. And so I agree with you. I mean, for me, when I'm coaching a client, especially about career transition, normally we start with values conversation. And then I point them to a career transition coach.
Right.
Somebody who's much more adept at that than I am. But I'm like, if it aligns with your values, then it can't be wrong.
Right.
But if it goes against your values, and in some cases that might be, it's cutting into family time, it's shift work, it's whatever, and that's going to rob you of your family time, then you can't, unless you have to do it for a season to pay some bills and get on your feet.
Right.
Don't do it.
Yeah. So if you kind of think of the sort of values as sort of your boundaries.
Yes.
Within those boundaries is a multitude of choice.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there's any one choice that is more perfect than the other, as long as they align with your values. And you don't know until you start. Right. And then you learn more, and then you make decisions based on that, right? So life is a lot about that.
Yeah.
And so it's that not putting life on hold while you're trying to figure out whatever is the ultimate perfect decision.
So, let's go into this conversation about the perfect partner.
Yeah.
Because I know that you've had conversations with young adults who have this idealized version of the life partner that they want.
Right.
And I know that you've said certain things to them. So, use me as an example. I want a perfect husband.
Well, first of all, I'd slap you a little bit with that accent. I always say to them that, you can find somebody who might have some alignment with your core values, but you're not going to find somebody who's perfect for you. First of all, how do you even know how to define perfect?
Right.
And you are going to meet somebody who is going to be different than you, and that's actually part of how it's going to push you to grow and expand your horizons a lot. But I always say, as long as you find someone who's teachable, who is able to take personal responsibility for themselves, and who's actually growth-minded, you can pretty much do life with pretty much most people.
Yeah. That's what you would look for in a friendship.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
So why wouldn't you look for those kinds of things in a life partner?
Right. And and the other end of it, we can seek perfect in terms of the guy's really good looking, or the person's really good looking, or they have a really great job, they have stable income, all the more superficial things that, according to my list, seems perfect. But if they're not teachable and they're not able to humbly own their mistakes and take responsibility for their own life and issues, then we're going to be in trouble.
Yes.
And this is what happens all the time. Like, I remember back in the day, young women used to make these lists. I'm going to make a list of the husband I want, and I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to pray through the list.
For the one.
For the one who's going to meet all those criteria.
You need a golden retriever, girl.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, first of all, how would you even know at 16 or 18 what kind of person you're looking for?
Oh.
You don't have the maturity to even recognize that about yourself. And second of all, you're setting up yourself for disappointment because you will never find somebody who checks off everything on that list. And then you may miss the point.
Yeah.
The point being with a partner that you actually love and can enjoy life together, who can challenge you, who can help you grow, that you can have shared values together, as opposed to check, they got all these things.
Exactly. You're not shopping for a house.
No.
Right.
No.
And I love, a couple of years ago, Andy Stanley did a thing on dating. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he said, which I thought was just huge, he said, instead of looking for the laundry list, take a look at that list and start working on yourself.
Oh, I love it.
And I'm like, yes, bingo, bango, bongo on that one. Mm-hmm. Like, if I'm looking for that, what is another person looking at in me that I need to work on and own in my own life?
Right.
Right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, and I think for the perfect job, there isn't one. Am I working towards being a great at my job, great in the role, great in my career? Then work on those things. Learn some new skills, like whatever you need to do.
And you can always change your mind.
You can.
That's
in this world, you can change your mind real fast.
That's right. So I think that this curated, social media driven version of what is perfect or flawless is the word that Henry Cloud uses, is setting us up to pursue things that A, don't exist,
right,
but B, we waste our energies trying to make that thing happen, because then it goes back to what we've talked about in previous episodes, is we're wasting way too much of our energy trying to make sure that everyone likes us.
That's right.
Because we're trying to present this front. So one thing I would say also is, for the perfectionists who are watching and listening, is that the amount of energy that you spend trying to make your home look flawless, or yourself look flawless, or whatever it is about your life look flawless, what are the fears or insecurities that's driving that?
Yeah.
What's maybe perhaps the inner critic that's also driving you, that you think that if you aren't, somehow you'll be rejected, or somehow there's that flaw within you is like this, such a core identity flaw. And I don't believe that at all. I mean, we all have weaknesses.
True.
But it doesn't mean we're flawed. Like there's something core flawed. Like, for example, I absolutely adore people who are neurodiverse. I love hanging out with them. I work with a lot of people with ADHD, actually.
Yeah.
And I delight in working with them. But I don't go in there blindly going, well, just because they have ADHD, I expect all this from them. I know that it comes with its own form of weaknesses.
Yeah.
And so I go in with my eyes wide open. So grace isn't ignoring that there are weaknesses. It's that I choose to accept you in that way. I can work with you, and then we can hold each other accountable, because your strengths will balance off my weaknesses and vice versa. So it is really having discernment and not being naive about the people that you are in relationship with, whether partner, friendship, or coworkers, that you choose to trust. So going in with your eyes wide open, but at the same time not demanding of them what is not possible for them to achieve, which is flawlessness.
And I mean, I'm so glad you said that, because I think when you were talking about being in partnership and relationship and working with people who are neurodiverse, you're talking about the give and take that you have for each other. And that's what we want for ourselves.
Right.
We want people to be grace-filled towards us. Right?
Right.
And with our
Absolutely.
junk.
Yes.
So I was just thinking about, when people are looking for the perfect partner or the perfect job situation, what tends to happen is the partner's not perfect, the job's not perfect, and so they go looking for the next perfect thing, right? And they repeat patterns that are unhealthy. So, how do you get beyond, I guess it's being, number one, aware.
Exactly.
And going, what was wrong in my thinking about going into that relationship or that job that couldn't measure up to my own expectations?
Right.
And, back to the Andy Stanley stuff, he says the number one killer in marriages is expectations. That we have an expectation of a person that we never speak out loud.
Right.
But we expect them to meet the need or to be that person. And so what expectations do I have of the perfect job? And
Right.
are they realistic? And if the tables were turned towards me and the arrow was pointing here, would I be able to even live up to my own expectations?
Yeah, and that's really the fine line, again, between being realistically open to the reality. I just used the word twice, but the reality of weaknesses and flaws and everything and everyone.
Yeah.
Not being naive and blind to it.
Right.
Because you're not helping yourself. You're just being in denial, and you're going to get hit on the head
Yeah.
with the same thing. But at the same time, not letting that be the thing that you look at, and you're going to do everything in your power to try to change it or criticize it out of that person. That's not helpful, right? So where do you have agency over yourself? So to kind of answer your question around, people changing jobs or people and, like, look at your pattern in your life. If you've had a series of sort of not so good jobs or a series of not so good relationships, like, what's the pattern here? You are the one thing that is consistent across all those situations. So that's great, because then you have agency over how you can make changes in how you decide, how you discern, what steps you take, the kind of people you choose to be attracted to, and then you can work on yourself with that.
Yeah.
It's like, if you want to be in a healthy relationship, you actually have the ability to do it.
Oh, I love that. I mean, that's worth the price of admission today.
Yeah.
Right there, is that you have the agency. So if you have found yourself in a pattern of jobs that just don't line up with you, or your expectations or values aren't the right fit, like, what's the common denominator? And then, like, get real with yourself and then say, but I have agency to change this. Like, the trajectory doesn't have to keep going this way. It can change. I love that, Mary.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, that people get so stuck and feel like there's a sense of powerlessness. So we're not trying to pursue flawlessness.
Right.
We're trying to pursue growth, maturity, a sense of agency.
Yeah.
And choice in how I'm living my life, as opposed to trying to make everyone and everything around me perfect.
Well, and it does go back to, the previous conversation where we were talking about, if something looks too good to be true, right? The idea of this flawless life, this pain-free life, doesn't exist.
It doesn't.
And if we're buying what, social media is telling us right now, and it's the reason I watch, like, people falling in ski resorts and stuff like that, because it's not perfect.
Right.
It's the stuff I love. I love fails.
Yeah.
It makes me feel good.
Yes. You don't feel such a goofball.
Fail Army is my favorite show. No,
Yes.
but I mean, I think that we kind of love to hear failure stories because it gives us hope. And we love to hear that, the zero to hero stories because it gives us hope.
Right. Yeah.
People who have worked through their flaws and worked through their stuff and been stronger as a result.
Yeah. So I think that that's so important, to face the reality of the fact that we are imperfect. And, for people who were raised in a religion where they were taught, if you just give your life over to Jesus, your life is somehow going to be. And then they wake up and kind of go, my life's kind of the same.
Yeah.
And was I sold something that was not actually true? Because I think that in this world we will have trouble. Like, what does that mean? How do we not waste our pain? How do we go through that?
Right.
And stop trying to seek the perfect?
How do we not waste our pain?
Yeah.
You're full of them today, man.
I can't help it. I mean, I just came from speaking at a conference. They're all floating in my
Zing,
brain.
zing, 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 zing.
Yes. Yes. So, okay. That's, so a question I would ask is, where in your life are you waiting for perfect?
Oh.
Is it a perfect job, a perfect partner? Maybe it's perfect kids. As one of my kids here, who is very close to perfect.
Or a perfect future.
Or a perfect opportunity.
Whatever that looks like, right?
And the second part of the question is, how is waiting for perfect holding you back?
Ooh.
Yeah. Do we have to answer these questions ourselves?
No, not today.
No. Just you.
Not today. I'm done with that.
You're done. Come on. Why did we pick this book again?
Because it's so, it's good for us.
It's good for us. Yes.
Because we're not pain avoidant.
Yes. Anyway.
That's why.
Thanks for tuning in yet again. And listening in. And I know you do listen, and I know we've heard from you how much you are taking in what we're saying. And we so appreciate that you're along for the ride. So stay tuned.
See you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Fully Lived Life podcast. We hope you found it encouraging and helpful. Be sure to follow or subscribe so that you never miss a new episode. And if you enjoyed our show, please help spread the word by sharing with your friends and family and posting on your social media. Thanks for listening, and tune in to our next episode.